Blizzard is still getting something very wrong with the new retail expansion, and nobody's talking about it. The new Midnight Retail expansion, it's coming with features like player housing, fresh zones like Ghostlands 2, and big new class changes, even a new Demon Hunter spec. But while everybody argues on the forums about whether player housing is just the sequel to Garrisons nobody wanted, people are completely missing the real point. Retail WoW is still doing these 5 things significantly worse than Classic, and until they fix them, I'm just not convinced retail is worth your money. So the number 5 thing that Classic just does better than retail. In retail, your gear is obsolete every single patch. With all the new hype about the raids, the dungeons, the delves, Blizzard has completely missed a problem that Classic WoW solved 20 years ago. See, back in vanilla, the time spent gearing, it didn't feel like a complete waste. So much of the gear you got, it had relevance, it had impact for the entire game. The gear you got early on, it was still very likely to be relevant even in Naxxramas, or for some items like Thunder Fury, even in the Burning Crusade, you could be main tanking with this weapon all the way through the game. Contrast that with Midnight though. You go, you do your delves, your Mythic Plus, you clear the raid, you're spending weeks, months gearing your character up. Except all that hard-earned gear you get, it's completely obsolete the second the new season drops. The very first green from next season's Xal'atath Feat quest immediately makes all of your gear completely obsolete. Now the number 4 thing Classic just does better than retail. Retail progression, it is complicated in all the wrong ways. Classic WoW just does this one so much better, it's not even close. When you get an awesome weapon, the Rock Dalar from Molten Core, let's say you got your Leaf, how awesome is that? You have the very best weapon in the game for hunters, and it's amazing. The best part is, though, you don't have any currencies you have to grind to upgrade your Rock Dalar to get an extra, 4 item levels. See, retail WoW gearing, they just kind of make it feel like a chore. You get a piece of gear, it is very rarely going to actually be best in slot because most players aren't clearing the hardest possible content anyways. Not to mention that it's just another nameless, faceless item, you have no attachment to it, it's not a Thunder Fury. So in retail, your new weapon feels just like a means to an end. It's another higher item level piece of gear that you equip to do a little more damage. There's no prestige, and there's definitely no pride. Then you have to deal with the currencies. Oh my god, the currencies. Sure, they got rid of Valor Stones, but you still have limited currencies you have to grind in order to upgrade your gear in the first place. That means you get the lovely choice of either upgrading a piece of gear that sucks, or you get to wait and wait and wait until you finally get a piece of gear that's actually worth upgrading. So the number 3 thing that Classic just does better than retail. Retail's new content, it has no staying power. I'm surprised that everybody in retail, they keep falling for this trick that Blizzard does every single time. See, every single expansion, people have caught on to the fact that it's a new landmass, new zones, new dungeons, new raids. It's pretty much the exact same thing every single time. So Blizzard is going the opposite direction this time, in theory, right? They're really hyping up this Ghostlands Eversong 2.0 versions. It's not just some boring new landmass. But no matter how you package those new zones, max level retail zones, they're always going to suffer from a fatal flaw. Sure, as long as there are new world bosses, new dailies, new weekly quests, relevant gear to obtain, those zones are going to thrive. Until, oh geez, the zone's completely empty because we're in the next season and there's no reason to come back anymore, and the only reason you ever go to the zone anymore is to fly through it to get to the next dungeon. Compare that to Classic though, where practically every zone, it thrives throughout the entirety of the game's lifespan. Leveling zones like Stranglethorn Vale, endgame zones like Eastern Plaguelands, even Silithus. And unlike in retail, where going back to the previous tier's raid is as unlikely as me ever finding a girlfriend, in vanilla, going back to Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, even when Naxx was out, it wasn't uncommon to do that. I even remember going back to Karazhan during the Black Temple patch in TBC. It's a safe bet that absolutely nobody will ever go in the Midnight Raids ever again after the season is over. So the number 2 thing that Classic just does better than retail, the game design in retail is a proven mistake. Here are 3 reasons why you should never, ever let a retail player say it is superior to Classic ever again. First, retail classes had so many buttons that they had to implement the 1-button rotation to even dream of adding new players. And when that didn't really work that well, they said okay, and they cut everybody's rotation down to like 4 buttons. So now Midnight is basically between TBC and Wrath in terms of difficulty, and Blizzard is essentially admitting that retail going down that complicated route was completely the wrong approach compared to Classic. Second, retail has somehow devolved into moving out of circles on the ground and kicking caster mobs. Except here's the fun part, the interface is so terrible for avoiding damage on the ground, and even worse for actually tracking kicks. So everybody has been forced for the last 10 years to install weak auras and add-ons, just to not experience the Jerome POV every single fight. Wait, is he actually dead? So now after years of letting retail descend into add-on hell, Blizzard is finally blocking all the ridiculous, the over-the-top combat add-ons in retail. It's basically going back to vanilla WoW all over again. Third is that retail talents and builds are just a complete mess. In vanilla, as you level, you carefully selected a talent based on what seemed best to you at the time. It was really fun, actually, to figure out which talent to pick, and every talent actually really did feel impactful. Now in retail, though, we are in yet another full talent rework, and 2 fundamental unfixable problems remain. First, everybody's already max level, so picking your talents actually is not very fun anymore. It's kind of just like researching and studying on Wowhead. It's like studying for an exam or something. Second is that while there are advantages to having different talent builds for, say, Mythic Plus versus Rating, it really just doesn't make sense why retail has talents in the first place. Now, talents in Classic, they make sense. In retail, though, they feel like baggage. Speaking of baggage, though, retail baggage, it is just impossible to escape. This is ultimately why you should just buy a retail account on G2G if you actually want to play retail. See, Classic WoW, it has no baggage whatsoever. Fresh server launches, everybody's level 1. Yes, the guy with no life, he has a pretty big advantage over everybody, but it, right? I mean, that's what MMOs are about. Retail WoW expansions, they never, ever launch on a level playing ground. Never mind the 3-day head start that you get for spending $100 on the Epic Edition. Instead, look at how Blizzard is marketing and pitching player housing. Don't worry, they say. A huge amount of items for your house will be tied to what you achieved and collected in retail for the last 20 years. Well, that really feels like a Midnight aimed towards people already playing retail. The ones with 500 mounts and pages upon toys and transmogs already collected. Not even mentioning how many house items will be available in the shop for real-life money, which is likely a reason they invested in housing in the first place. See, that's always going to be Classic's biggest advantage over retail. Classic, it rewards you for putting in effort and time, and the biggest nerd ends up being the coolest f***ing guy in Orgrimmar. Meanwhile, retail continues rewarding and prioritizing and milking the decreasing number of players that have been shelling out money month after month after month on store mounts and pre-order bonuses and WoW tokens. Blizzard ultimately lives by this verse from esteemed poet DJ Khaled. If you ain't talking money, we ain't talking. So whether you're hyped about the new Midnight, or would rather never hear about it again, one thing is definitely for sure. No matter what retail adds in terms of new content, new zones, new raids, new systems, Classic WoW is always going to have a huge advantage when it comes to things like world design, the progression systems, and the massive, massive lack of baggage. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to give the video a like, And also, huge video coming out this Wednesday, all the ways that players in Classic WoW have broken the game over the years. Definitely subscribe so you don't miss that.